Let me just read this so that it puts everything in its proper perspective. Now, Ghana's Foreign Affairs Ministry Tuesday announced, which was yesterday, that the country's embassy in Washington, D.C. will reopen on Thursday after a temporary closure. The announcement came after Foreign Affairs Minister Ablakwa ordered the closure on Monday to allow for investigations into alleged corrupt practices of the mission. A team of astute diplomats from the Foreign Ministry has been dispatched to the embassy to ensure a total system overhaul and to restore credibility to the embassy's operations and complete ongoing structural reform, the statement adds. According to the ministry, a special audit team found that a local staffer in the embassy's IT department created an unauthorized link on the embassy's website, which advertised visa and passport applications to applicants to his company, where he charged extra for multiple services on the blind side of the ministry and kept the entire proceeds in his private account. And an IT team has already been deployed to reconfigure the website and also payment platforms to do away with the unofficial and unauthorized links associated with the IT system of the embassy, the statement add. Ogozi.
Well, first of all, I think one has to make the point that His Excellency Samuel Okudzato Ablakwa has earned a huge reputation as an anti-corruption campaigner. There's no doubt at all about that.
Right.
You understand? But somehow, unfortunately, in the reassignment of duties and so on, President Mahama did not take him to the CID or to Yoko or any of those places. He put him in foreign affairs. Foreign affairs necessarily requires a new set, of skills and so on, Now, having said that, I think the point also has to be made that many diplomatic missions have had problems. Many, not just Ghanaian diplomatic missions, many. A couple of years ago, I think about 2 years ago or so, South Africa suspended the issuance of visas from their High Commission here. No noise was made about it. You just notice, for those of us who travel to South Africa a lot, you just notice that the process had become very slow. It was unexplained. It took a long time for us to realize that there were some problems relating to the issuance of visas from the South African High Commission here. They kept it under wraps. Not just that, I have known that at least on one occasion, a British diplomat had been recalled from Ghana because of conduct which the appointing authorities thought was unbecoming of a diplomat. But it was done so quietly.
Yeah.
So several missions here and elsewhere have had problems. But then it has been dealt with very quietly. There must be a reason for that. And it seems to me that the reason for that is that given the role of embassies and high commissions, it is important that they come out in a certain decorous frame. You understand? Yesterday something happened and I was a bit alarmed. You had media houses open phone lines and invite Ghanaians everywhere to make statements about the quality of services they are getting from their embassies and so on. And I'm sure you probably saw some of them.
Yeah.
And it was horrifying. The kinds of things Ghanaian citizens outside were saying about their own missions. The mission in Germany came under attack. The mission in Spain was torn to shreds, and so on. I want to believe that these Ghanaians who were calling into these programs, were telling the truth and sincere. But what is the effect of that on our ability to represent the country? If we create the impression that our high commissions and embassies are a dens of crooks and highwaymen and women, we do irreparable damage to their capacity to represent us properly. You understand? So I would urge that when it comes to such things, the minister was right in seeking to take corrective action. Nobody can quarrel with His Excellency Okudzato Ablakwa for taking measures to curb corruption in one particular embassy or embassies and so on. That's his duty. He's supposed to do that. My problem is, do we do it, with this level of media attention and so on? What is it intended to do? So that's one of the issues. Now, for me, from what the gentleman who used to work in the embassy has written,
Kofi
Tonto has written, it's obvious that these matters came to the notice of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Yes, according to him.
Long before Mr. Okudzato Ablakwa assumed office. Long before President Mahama became president for the second time and so on. Why was this gentleman not dealt with? Why did he still remain in office and carry on this activity, which to all intents and purposes is illegitimate and illegal? That's a huge question. What connections did this guy have in the foreign ministry who shielded him for all this time, given the fact that it was known that he was doing this? I mean, I'm worried.
Yeah.
I'm seriously worried about the fact that this is the situation. You understand? Then there's an important point which you have raised, and that is, what is the quality of our auditing? What's the quality of our auditing? Because the story is that he's the IT expert in the embassy, that he has managed to create a link, which is personal for him.
Yeah.
So applicants for passports and other services actually end up with him.
Yeah.
And he charges them illegal fees, and then eventually the passports are issued and so on. Now, if you just audit the payment systems in the embassy, this should come out.
Easily.
So who has been doing the auditing of the embassy? And how was the auditing done? That's another issue. You understand? So it may appear to be a simple matter of fighting corruption and so on, but I think that there are many other dimensions to this
It's
issue.
a whole syndicate.
Yes. Now we are being told that some extraordinary diplomats are being sent to Washington. I mean, you read the description, of the diplomats who are going there to rectify the situation and so on. Well, it's interesting, but I'm again just wondering, because we hear from one of the newspaper reports, especially the report in Herald, that there were members of staff of the embassy who saw this and fought it, and actually sent reports to Accra.
Yes.
These are honest men and women who wanted the right thing to be done. Now, how come that in the remedial action that we took, all of them, including the people who fought this system, who perhaps even exposed this system, were affected? There's a problem there.
Yeah.
There's some problem there, and so on. But let me make my final remark.
And what does this even mean for our fight against corruption?
Exactly.
If I'm going to expose somebody and I lose my job at the end of the day, I might as well just keep quiet.
Well, they haven't lost their jobs. They were suspended.
Well.
You understand? So they still have
But
their jobs.
they won't be happy they have been brought to Accra. Of course, they won't be sacked. But once they've been asked to leave the embassy and come to Ghana,
but they haven't been sacked. But there is something that probably escapes our attention. All of our ministers are addressed as honorables.
Yes.
You know that?
Yes.
Including the defense minister, minister of finance and so on.
Yes.
The foreign minister is an exception.
True. His Excellency.
The foreign minister is addressed the same way the president is addressed. That should tell you something.
Yeah.
That should tell you that the foreign minister is in a special category. You understand? That's our foreign image. That's everything foreign is about him. Our negotiations with other countries, our solidarity with other countries, the definition of our foreign policy lines, and so on. It's all about the Minister for Foreign Affairs. And therefore, given what I know about the conduct of foreign policy and so on, sometimes I'm a bit reluctant to discuss the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You know, I'm a bit reluctant. I'm also reluctant because he said it. Perhaps I wouldn't have said it from the beginning. That's also our nerve center for foreign intelligence gathering. True.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
It's our nerve center for foreign intelligence gathering. So the foreign minister is not just presiding over exchanges of pleasantries and so on. The foreign minister is key in our intelligence gathering efforts and so on. So next time, maybe we can do it better than we've done this time. I don't want to go into all the...
Somebody was asking, in the last few days, the embassy was closed. So if there's a public official in America who wants to visit Ghana, the person would have to postpone it.
Yes.
Because the embassy is not working.
Not just that. What if you have a health emergency?
Yes.
You know, and there are many other emergencies that you could have. You know.
Yeah.
So embassies are very crucial.
Because the embassy is Ghana in America.
Exactly.
And when people have a problem, they go and seek refuge there. You know, so if there's a problem, where do the people go to?
But the good news is that, you know, this closure of the embassy has not lasted too long.
Yes.
It's lasted
But
only
it could be due to the public backlash.
Yeah, it was
because when I read the statement which was issued by the Foreign Affairs Minister, which he put up on Facebook, the impression I got was that this was going to last for a while.
Yes.
You know, for some thorough investigations to take place, for us to unearth exactly what happened and so on, before new personnel is deployed to Washington. But you notice after a few days, in fact, just 24 hours after this statement came and said on Thursday the embassy is going to open. I suspect it may be due to the backlash.
Yes.
And then there's also something that I think is important to draw attention to. And this happens in all disciplined institutions.
Yeah.
You know. You don't draw the leader into controversies from the very beginning. You understand? So the leader must be kept aside when such things are happening. Is the last line. Yeah. Okay. So when things happen at a certain level, way below the leader, and ministers issue statements that, oh, I did this in consultation with the head of state and so on, there's a problem. You lock the head of state in, he has no route of escape, and so on. It shouldn't happen. You know, it shouldn't happen.
And that is part of
the head of state is the last person to fall.
Yes.
You, the minister, take responsibility. I mean, what value is added by claiming
that I consulted the president?
That the president is part of it.
Yeah. He's involved in
that. You understand? Just in case it doesn't go well. Just in case there's a backlash and so on. The president from the very beginning has been roped in. And it doesn't sound well.
Yes, but just a quick
Even when presidents make mistakes, they are the last to take the fall.
Yeah.
You know, and it's for good reason and good measure, you know. So I don't know.
Let me just make these two.
No, I think it was perhaps meant to add some weight to the decision, some legitimacy.
Nobody.
Does the foreign minister need any weight to take action?
This is something that
he knew it was going to be a far-reaching. It was going to have far-reaching consequences, and so I'm just
but the point is that you would have done that consultation,
but you don't.
You may have gotten the blessing, but of course you never know what the aftermath would be.
Yeah.
And so you take responsibility. That is why you are the minister. You are in charge.
You take the
so you take exactly. So you take it.